What is going on, everybody? This is S Trades, and today's video we've been going over why losing in trading is what's going to actually make you profitable. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So there's going to be a quick psychological yap. I came across a few videos of people talking about their losses, and I had a few people in my college kind of asking me around about trading and things like that. And most of the new people that don't really know what trading is or don't know how it works always kind of have the same misconception about trading and think of it as if like some get rich quick scheme, like they'll put some money in and get like 10x return right away in the same day and then just become a millionaire or whatever. They think it's just like a super easy and a fast thing to get money. I have people asking me like, oh, would you like if they gave me like a certain amount of dollars or whatever, would I be able to like return them like 2x 3x and then give it back to them like next week? I'm like, no, like that's not how trading works at all whatsoever. In trading, it's a very long-term thing, although it seems like you're day trading day-to-day basis, and you're seeing these profits go up and down every single day. It seems like you should be making money every single day, but trading, and specifically day trading, is a long-term aspect. It's a long-term game where you have to be in it for a few years. At the very minimum, you have to be here for a year or two to just at least get the basics of trading, to see how it works, to understand how trading is and understand what trading psychology is, because at some point in trading it comes to a point where you are pretty knowledgeable in all the technical aspects of trading. Like you have a specific strategy that's proven to be profitable and you know how everything works. You kind of see, like if you open up the chart, you could kind of tell, or have an idea of where the charts might go, maybe today or tomorrow, and just have like a general understanding of how the market's moving, things like that, and you could execute it, and you could replicate your profitable strategy. And when you come to that point, the only thing that's left for you to do is to master your psychology, right? And when it comes to mastering your psychology, the biggest factor that a lot of people, including myself, are having a very, very hard time mastering is accepting losses, right? In trading, and just like in any other aspects of life, losses are so important and crucial in order for you to succeed in any area. Like think of it in a sport, right? If you're playing soccer or playing basketball, whatever other sport you play, right? You practice day-to-day basis, right? You go to these practices, then you compete in the tournaments, right? You don't just necessarily become the best at the sport right away, right? It takes some time for you to start building those skills, and you start learning and becoming better by taking those losses, right? You go to your first match, you lose. You go to your second match, you lose, and then as you lose and lose more, you start to see your flaws, you start to see what you have to work on, and eventually you start to work on those mistakes, and then slowly and surely you kind of progress, and you start to now win more, and then you start to become more consistent, and then you start to see, like, eventually after some good amount of time passes by, then you start to seeing some actual progress, right? It's kind of the same thing with trading, but the only difference is with trading you pay your losses, right? The losses cost you money, and that's why it's so hard and so difficult for every trader to just kind of accept that you have to lose. The way I think about it is you have to see trading as a business, because it technically is just another business model, right? And every single loss that you take on a day-to-day basis, or let's say and the losses that I'm talking about is good losses, meaning, so before I even get into anything, right, there are two types of losses in trading, right? There are those losses where you follow your strategy, you follow everything that you need to do. You took an A+ setup, you didn't overtrade, you didn't revenge trade, you didn't oversize or anything like that. Like you just took what you needed to take, A+ setup according to your strategy. Everything was there that you needed to see, and you still lost, right? That's just a probabilities game, right? Trading is pretty much, just think of it as statistics and probabilities game, right? Like you have to have a certain win rate in your strategy, right? And the other side of that win rate is going to be your losing rate, right? So there's never going to be a time where you're going to be 100% win rate all the time. Like that's just impossible for trading, right? There's always going to be some sort of win rate. So for example, in my case, my strategy is 70% win rate and 30% is I have to lose, right? So no matter what I do, no matter how much I try to avoid losses, the statistics are always going to rebalance themselves, meaning I could be winning this whole entire month, but at some point I'll be expecting to lose because I've backtested and have a trading strategy that is proven to be working 70% of the time for a reason. And I'm not saying like you have to have a strategy and you see that it's proven to be like whatever 70% win rate. and you backtested it for like a week or two. No, like this has to be a data worth of years, or it has to be a trading strategy that's like a lot of people use it. So for example, if you got mentored by somebody and they all use the same trading strategy, right, and they all have the same statistics, so in that way you could also use it, because you know that there's a lot of other people that use the same exact strategy as you and already have results, so you could kind of trust it. And obviously you have to do your own research in order to see like how the trading strategy works, what are the pros and the cons. But once you start to understand and see trading as a probabilities game, right, and it's not, when I start to say win rate and lose rate, people automatically think that it's gambling. See, in gambling, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose, no matter, like, the longer you stay, the more you're going to lose, right? And in gambling, a lot of it is just based off luck. There isn't like a way of you trying to back test something, or there isn't a way of you trying to like learn how to become like a very, very good trader, unless you have like so much money and you're just a degenerate that completely keeps on gambling and keeps on, getting lucky. Other than that, but with trading, right, there is proven strategies, right? You work for the strategies that you have. You have to have years and years worth of data and statistics that prove that whatever you're trading is proven to work, right? And there's a certain statistic to it, right? And in trading, there isn't a way of like just winning 100% of the time, no matter who says what. Like, there's never going to be a strategy that's going to be that high, because market moves in cycles, and every trading strategy has times where they do better at. For example, if you trade in continuation models, you might be good at when prices are all-time highs because it continues going on higher, things like that. If you're a versatile trader, you might be better at some other market stages, right? So it really depends on your trading strategy. And just like the same way I would think of trading strategies being good at some certain cycles in the market, it's kind of the same with other sports and other aspects of life, right? You're not going to be always, like, if you can give you another example about sports, right, you're never going to be 100% of the time all the time in your sport. Like, for example, I do wrestling, right? There's never going to be a time where I'm always 100% in, like, I'm not going to be like winning. There's going to be a time where I might be losing because, I don't know, I didn't sleep well for this week, or I didn't have proper nutrition, right? So as a result, I'll be losing. So like my cycle or my time frame is kind of changing due to certain circumstances that is happening, right? So kind of the same thing with trading, right? There's different market cycles, right? For example, there are news that are constantly coming out with Trump, let's say, talking about tariffs, right? Or we are in earnings, we're in earnings period, right? So most of the time when there's earnings, there's going to be a lot of volatility. So your trading strategy might be better at earnings season, because your trading strategy kind of becomes better when there's a lot of volatile moves happening in the markets, right? So it really just depends on the certain market conditions that you're facing, right? So which is why there are statistics in day trading strategies, right? Which is why there's a certain win rate and lose rate, because no matter what kind of strategy you have, there's going to be times where your strategy is doing really, really good, and there's going to be times where your strategy isn't doing so well, right? So going back to the point of losing, right? So if I was to tell you, for example, that you would have to lose 20 more times and then you'll start to see success, a lot of you probably will be so eager to lose and lose more, and you'll probably want to speed up the process to continuously lose 20 times, just so you can start to face that win or those accomplishments that you're looking for, right? Same thing with any other aspects in life. Like, if you are constantly practicing in your sport, I'm going to keep giving you an example of the sport. If you're constantly practicing and you're constantly failing and you're not like giving up on that sport and you're learning from your mistakes, it is almost most likely guaranteed that you're going to start to see some sort of success, because you're not giving up on that goal. You're constantly chasing the goal. You're learning from those mistakes and your losses, right? So eventually, after you taking a certain amounts of losses, you're going to kind of start to see the upside of it. You're going to now start to win. You're going to start to see that you're improving on certain things that you're trying to achieve, right? Same thing with trading. If you're constantly losing, right, you have to now journal those trades. Why are you losing? Maybe you're, not entering for a certain period of time maybe you're entering on a wrong time period, right? Or maybe you're over leveraging, you're over risking, or maybe you're trying to make your money back at a certain point. Maybe you're too emotional. There's a lot of different aspects that go into it. So you learn these things by putting time in the markets, and you learn these things by pretty much experience, right? And this takes time, right? So this kind of goes back to my first point that I was saying, that trading is a long-term game, right? You have to be here for a long period of time to understand how the markets move, to understand where you perform good and where you don't perform so well. And going back to the part of where you have to lose, again, I think of it and I treat trading as a business, because no matter what business model that you have, like you could be an entrepreneur, you could be running a tech company, you could be running a health insurance company, whatever sort of business there is, there's always going to be expenses, right? So there's always going to be times where their businesses are putting money into certain expenses, right? For example, they have to run ads, they have to purchase certain stocks of inventory or whatever, and they have to build new inventories or new like factories and things like that, right? There's going to be always expenses in a business, right? And if you think of it that way, when companies put money into their expenses, they don't just necessarily like throw out their entire business just because their money is going down in terms of expenses, right? They don't treat it that way. They see it as a long-term game, meaning like these expenses that I'm putting in my business right now is going to pretty much bring me a positive return, right? Later down the line. That's kind of the same way you have to treat trading as, right? Think of losses, the good losses that I mentioned, right? That are according to your strategy, that are according to your statistics and things like that. Those good losses are just expenses in your business, right? That's how you should think of losses, because if you try to always avoid losses like I do, right? I really I have a lot of trouble with taking losses, so I would try to avoid losses. I would try to like never try to lose, and when I do, I start to get super emotional, right? That's when a lot of tilt start to happen. That's when a lot of emotional trading starts to kick in, right? You start to now want to make your money back. You start to want to revenge trade. You start to want to like, let me size up, double the amount to try to make my loss back and be up in profit. And then you're just going to be kind of stuck in that loophole of now you lost twice more than you just had like a smaller loss, right? Now you want to just kind of get to break even, and then once you get to a break even, you just want to get to a smaller loss, and you're eventually just going to blow up your account. Now if you think of it again, trading as a business, that is the most stupidest way to treat your accounts once you take a loss, right? Because again, going back to a business example, right? If a business just had unusual expenses or unexpected or even expected expenses at the moment, right? Let's say they had to provide more ads for their business, or they had to purchase more inventory for a certain factory that they built, right? They're not just going to throw out all their hard work that they built over the years or over months or whatever that they just built, right? They're going to accept those expenses, meaning like this is just something that has to happen in order for the business to grow in the long run. That's the same way you have to treat trading as. The only difference between trading and other businesses is you pay your losses heavily with money, right? So every time you lose, you physically and you see it on your screen that, all right, you just lost $1,000, you just lost $500, and it's so hard to just accept that you have to have like a minus and a red screen at the moment, because now your body kind of starts to enter fly or fight mode, because now you're like, oh my god, if I don't make this money back, this is going to be the end of it. Again, the reason being is because you're thinking of trading in a short term, right? You're not thinking of it as a long-term game, because if you were, you wouldn't have those problems. You wouldn't, treat trading as some sort of a gamble. You wouldn't be like, all right, this one loss that I took, I have to make my money back exactly at this moment right now, and then you pretty much blow your account. That's not how it would work, right? And I'm not speaking in a way as if I'm some sort of like successful trader. Like I'm not nowhere near where I want to be at, right? I'm still struggling with all these problems that I'm explaining to myself. So in a way, I'm kind of teaching myself and providing my own experiences to you guys. And trading, one of the most famous quotes is the best loser wins, right? If you're able to just accept losses in trading and move on and just like have belief in your own strategy, and you could stick to all the rules that you have and be disciplined with it, it's guaranteed that you're going to make money in trading. Like it over the long run, right? You're going to be making money, right? Now, again, going back to the statistics point and going back to the probabilities, right? So using my own example, using my own strategy, I have a 70% win rate and 30% losing rate, right? So meaning 70% of the time I will win and 30% of the time I will lose. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean over like 100-day course period, right? For example, I could just have a terrible month this month. Let's say October, I lost every single day, right? I lost that last week, I lost this week, right? And just back to back to back losses. And then my statistics would kind of start to slowly rebalance themselves, and then I would go on like a 2-month winning streak, right? So it really just depends on the current market cycle, right? Or you could be like, for example, you win today, you win tomorrow, then you lose on Wednesday, and then you win on Thursday, then you lose on Friday again, and then next week you win the whole week, and then next week you, let's say, lose 2 days in a row. So it's really kind of, it's not that it's just random, but it just really depends on the day, depends on the weeks, where you are in the market, depending on like there's certain news happening or whatever, right? So it really just depends where you are in the market currently. So for your probabilities, right, you could either be, let's say, heavily in a losing streak at the moment, and that's when it becomes really, really hard, because in your mind you have that idea of, okay, I have a 70% win rate and 30% losing rate, and I'm just currently on that 30% losing side at the moment, right? Let's say if you're on a losing week, let's say this is your second week losing back to back, you still have to stick to your strategy. You can't go back and not start to like over leverage or go to a different strategy, or just completely forget about your trading strategy, because now you're everything that you're kind of putting up, all the hard work that you're doing is going to be pointless, because all the statistics that you built, all the data that you have backed up for your trading strategy is going to be all to waste, because you're now messing up with your own statistics, right? If you have a 30% losing rate at the moment, right, you're just facing a drawdown for a second week, you know that there's going to be a time, maybe it could be tomorrow, maybe it could be next week or even next month, right? You know that 70% win rate is going to come back, right? It just really depends on when, and that's why it's so hard to be accepting those losses, because you have this level of uncertainty in the markets, right? Because you don't really know when you're going to be losing, you don't really know when you're going to be winning. All you can do is just execute on your A plus setups. You could just, that's the only thing that you can do, right? The only thing that you have control in the markets is taking those like good setups, are A tier, A plus tier, right? That's the only thing that you have in control of in the markets, right? So you can't be trying to controlling like all the losses that you take. You can't, that's physically impossible, right? So, and that is why it's super, super hard to be accepting those losses. But once you do, right, once you actually accept those losses, and once you realize that losses are just part of the game, and yes, even though you're paying it with your real money, that's just part of the game that you're in. And if the sooner that you're able to accept that fact, the sooner that you'll be able to see the green profits, the sooner you'll be able to start taking these big payouts in your accounts, the sooner you'll be able to be consistently trading green, right? So that, in my opinion, is the biggest trading factor that you could master, is accepting losses. And once you do, you'll never look back. Again, in just any aspects of life, losing is always what causes you to grow as a person, right? It could be a job, or it could be a sport, or it could be school, anything, right? Every single time you do bad in certain areas, or once you start losing on some sort of areas, right, that is what builds you as a character. That's what makes you better, right? If you never lost, you wouldn't have ever gotten good at something. You wouldn't have ever gone to the top and the top. Like, think of the last time, for example, if you guys are athletes, think of the last time you won a tournament, right? You didn't just get into the sport and just won that tournament the second that you got into the sport. Obviously not, right? You had to go through a lot of losses, a lot of learning curves. You had to learn all these different tools and the sport and things like that. Then only then, after learning that and trying to become better, that's when you start to see the wins. That's when you start to win some sort of competition. That's when you start to win those big tournaments, right? Same exact thing with trading, right? You have to just accept that you have to lose no matter what, no matter if you're in a losing streak. And if you have a profitable trading strategy, just stick to your strategy, knowing that you're going to be at some point turning back green, turning back to that 70% win rate, because statistics are always going to be rebalancing themselves no matter what. So that was about it for this video, guys. Just a quick yap session. If you guys have any questions, comment down below. If you guys want to have any personal help with your trading or anything, if you have any other questions, join my Discord down below. Link is going to be in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video.